Imagine waking up on a normal weekday morning, reaching for your phone, and seeing the email that quietly rearranges your entire life. No warning sirens, no dramatic music, just a subject line that feels strangely polite and brutally final at the same time. In the United States, millions of people experience this moment every year, and most of them describe the same sinking feeling. The ground disappears beneath their feet, while the rest of the world keeps moving as if nothing changed. You might think losing your job is the end of stability, the end of certainty, the end of the version of yourself you spent years building. But what if this moment is not the collapse of your story, but the turning point you never knew you needed? When a layoff hits, it does not just remove income, it removes routine, identity, pride, and the comforting illusion of predictability. Suddenly the clock feels louder, days stretch longer, questions grow sharper. Who am I without this title? What do I tell my family? How do I explain this to myself? The mind starts writing dark stories before the facts even settle. You begin to measure your worth in rejection emails and unanswered applications. It feels personal, even when it is not. It feels permanent, even when it is not. This emotional storm is real, powerful, and deeply human. Yet buried inside this storm is a quiet truth most people never see until much later. Years ago, Dr. Grandpa Henry shared a simple idea that sounds almost impossible in moments like this. Rock bottom is often the clearest ground you will ever stand on. At first, that idea feels frustrating, even offensive. How can uncertainty be clear? How can fear create direction? But think about the strange freedom that appears when the path you were following suddenly disappears. For the first time in years, maybe decades, the script stops. The expectations pause. The autopilot switches off. You are no longer walking a road you chose years ago. You are standing at a blank map. And blank maps are terrifying, but they are also honest. Here is the suspense most people do not talk about. The weeks immediately after losing a job often feel like chaos. But beneath that chaos, something subtle begins to shift. Old dreams whisper again. Forgotten interests resurface. Ideas that once felt impractical start to feel possible. At first, these whispers are easy to ignore because fear is loud and doubt is persistent. Yet something inside you begins to ask a question that refuses to disappear. If the old path is gone, what new path might be waiting? This question does not arrive with comfort. It arrives with uncertainty, and that uncertainty feels heavy. But it also holds an opportunity that most people never notice until it has already changed their lives. And the truth about what happens next is far more surprising than the fear that brought you here today. You are closer than you think, right? The moment after disruption is where the real transformation quietly begins, even though it rarely looks like transformation at first. It looks like confusion, late nights, endless scrolling through job listings, and mornings filled with doubt. It feels like standing in a hallway with 100 doors and no signs telling you which one to open. This stage is uncomfortable because society trains people to chase certainty, not possibility. When a paycheck disappears, fear tries to convince you that the only correct move is to run back to the safest door as fast as possible. Survival mode whispers that speed matters more than direction, that security matters more than meaning, and that returning to the familiar is the only way to feel stable again. But here is where the hidden opportunity begins to reveal itself in the most unexpected way. When people lose a job, they often rush to replace the income, but very few pause to question the identity they are trying to replace. For years, maybe even decades, your work shaped how you introduced yourself, how you measured your progress, and how you explained your value to the world. Without that role, there is a silence that feels uncomfortable, but silence has a purpose. Silence creates space. Space creates reflection. Reflection creates clarity. This is the phase where many people accidentally discover who they are beyond the title they carried. They begin to notice patterns they ignored when life was busy. They remember passions they once postponed. They recognize skills they never fully explored, and slowly, a realization begins to form. The job you lost might not have been the only path you were capable of walking. This realization does not arrive as fireworks or instant confidence. It arrives quietly, like the first light before sunrise. You begin to ask better questions. Instead of asking how to return to what was, you start asking what could be built from here. You notice the growing world of remote work, digital entrepreneurship, freelancing, consulting, and entirely new industries that did not exist 10 years ago. You begin to see how careers in the United States are no longer straight ladders but evolving landscapes. The idea of one lifelong job fades, and the idea of multiple reinventions becomes real. The loss that once felt like rejection slowly starts to feel like redirection. Still, the tension remains. Doubt does not disappear overnight. Bills still arrive. Expectations still exist. Fear still visits late at night and asks difficult questions. But alongside fear, a new voice begins to grow stronger. That voice reminds you that you are learning, adapting, and redefining what success means. You start realizing that the future is not something you return to, it is something you design. And the deeper you move into this uncertain territory, the more you sense that the path ahead is not closing, but quietly opening in ways you never imagined before today. There comes a turning point when uncertainty stops feeling like an enemy and starts feeling like a challenge you are capable of meeting. It does not happen all at once. It happens in small decisions made day after day. You update a resume and realize how many skills you actually gained. You reach out to a former colleague and rediscover the power of connection. You explore an idea that once felt unrealistic and notice it feels slightly less impossible today. Momentum begins quietly, almost invisibly. But once it starts, it changes everything. The layoff that once defined your fear slowly becomes the event that introduced your reinvention. The story you told yourself begins to shift from loss to transformation, from rejection to redirection, from ending to beginning. As weeks turn into months, confidence returns in a new and deeper form. This confidence is different from the one you had before, because it is not based on a job title or a company name. It is based on resilience, adaptability, and a realization that you can rebuild when life changes without permission. You begin to understand that job security was never truly guaranteed, but personal growth always is. This realization creates a powerful sense of ownership over your future. You stop waiting for opportunities to appear and start creating them. You explore industries you once overlooked. You consider projects you once postponed. You recognize that the modern career is not a fixed ladder, but a living journey that evolves as you do. Looking back, the fear that once felt overwhelming now appears as the doorway that forced you to grow. The stress, the doubt, the sleepless nights, and the uncomfortable questions all played a role in pushing you toward a version of yourself that would never have emerged inside your comfort zone. You realized that losing a job did not erase your value. It revealed it. It forced you to examine your strengths, your dreams, and your direction with honesty you had never practiced before. And in that honesty, a powerful truth becomes clear. Opportunity often hides inside the moments we try hardest to avoid. If you are standing in this uncertain season right now, remember that this chapter is not the final page of your story. It is the chapter where you take authorship of what comes next. Your next role, your next project, your next opportunity is being shaped by the courage you show today. Every step forward, no matter how small, is proof that progress continues even when the path feels unclear. Keep moving, keep learning, and keep believing that this unexpected turning point is guiding you towards something meaningful. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.